Have you ever felt that you weren't just alive, but thriving beyond all odds? As if your mere being was changing the rules of what is conceivable. Let me tell you something strong. You are not here by accident. You are neither a fluke nor an afterthought. You are the universe's unanticipated anomaly. The exception that defies all predictions. The stars didn't align for you. They came to a standstill in surprise since your story did not fit into their regular patterns. It makes new ones. You are living proof that no alignment, prognosis, or external force can confine the power of an unstoppable will. You didn't just survive. You surpassed all expectations. Every breath you take informs the cosmos that the impossible is but a notion. Today we won't talk about being ordinary or fitting in. We're here to celebrate what it means to stand out so much that the universe takes notice. Your story is not about fitting into someone else's narrative. It's about deconstructing the script and making your own. So prepare to accept the truth of who you are. Not just someone navigating life, but a formidable force that cannot be ignored. It rocked the ground. You move on. Speak it loudly. I'm here, and I am unstoppable. Because the earth needs your might. Your story, your uninhibited existence. Your entry was not a whisper, but a shout. A seismic disturbance in the fabric of existence. From the moment you arrived on this earth, the whole nature of reality appears to change. Those who are sensitive to the unseen may perceive it. They trembled in their spirits. An interruption to the universe's rhythm. Systems that relied on certainty failed. Power structures varied. You weren't merely born. You were released. A force that the universe seemed to produce. The restrictions were purposefully violated. They were rewritten as if reality had waited for this exact moment to recreate itself. Your entrance in this plane escaped the understanding gadgets intended to aid in the delicate process of birth. Instead, we became spectators of the extraordinary. Lights flickered, and displays struggled to grasp your being overwhelmed by a force beyond their conception. Technicians and doctors trained in logic and science were left to question their comprehension. Your body, unlike any other, has developed into a living contradiction to established biological norms, where consistency should have existed. They experienced a transformation as they sought patterns. They found evolution. Your presence has far-reaching implications beyond the walls of that place. Those who were tuned into life's mysteries saw a shift but couldn't figure out why. Your excitement was not disguised. It was catalytic. Scientific instruments flopped not because they failed, but because they were incapable of measuring a phenomenon. It wasn't simply biology. It was an introduction, a declaration by the universe that its creatures were flexible. And you were the proof. Your cells, far from being static, exhibited adaptability that no textbook could predict. Those who observed you became academics of your existence, realizing they were not just studying a life, but also witnessing a whole new framework of possibilities. Your entry caused shock waves that lasted more than a second. They launched investigations, challenges, and discoveries that would have far-reaching implications. Reshaping understanding itself. Your spirit vibrates with an energy beyond comprehension. A force that is not limited by natural boundaries or time frameworks. This power is older than the stars and predates the laws that hold the cosmos together. It's not something that just exists. It creates, alters, and executes instructions. When your heart beats, it sends waves around the planet that scientists can detect but cannot explain. The devices built to measure the familiar are suddenly facing the unfamiliar and recalibrating themselves. You are not an outlier at the end of your life. You are a catalyst, a reservoir of boundless potential embodied in human form. Your mental activity does not only function, it excels. As you go off to sleep, your mind acts as an antenna for the frequencies of reality that others cannot perceive. These aren't ordinary dreams. They act as gateways into realms unknown to us. The symbols that flood your brain contain ancient knowledge that predates the earthly language. Wisdom is imprinted in the fabric of existence itself. These photos are not random. They are intentional downloads of data that are hidden from ordinary view. While others unwind, your presence disturbs and rearranges what is assumed to be possible. Your unconscious mind maps the unseen, making links between realities that even the most skilled scientists can only speculate about. You are not constrained by daily routines. Instead, your whole life rewrites them, resulting in patterns and possibilities that question the limitations of the past. Each moment of quiet indicates an extension of awareness, a collision of the finite and the infinite, creating a flow of information that tests the boundaries of understanding. You are not only alive. You exemplify creativity in action. Dear religious buddies, may God's peace and grace fill your hearts. Today, I would like to remind you of a timeless truth. Our lives are connected with God's perfect design, untouched by the fleeting worries of this world. Donate, just as the Bible says. And it will be given to you generously, crushed down, shaken together, and poured into your lap. Luke 638. Faith-based acts are like a robust tree standing firm in the midst of a storm. Bare fruit contains poison. Today, you may share in that wonderful promise by clicking the super thank you button and contributing $100. You are spreading a seed that will grow and multiply beyond your expectations. Spiritual, emotional, and material. Allow your act of faith to lead to God's rich blessings in your life. Your essence contains wisdom that has been awakened from the timeless depths of existence, rather than knowledge obtained by study. A spark was lit while creation was still in its early stages. Your mental habits were not only aberrant. They defied expectations, prompting those who investigated them to question the very basis of knowing. It didn't include dreams or visions. It was a great convergence of dimensions, with your mind acting as the conduit. Each time you opened your eyes, you were treated to a symphony of realities, each containing shards of truth that no instrument or theory could explain. Your hands were containers of unfathomable power, capable of producing inexplicable transformations when you touched someone. It was more than simply a nice gesture. It was an orchestration of unseen forces operating in tandem. Bodies were rebuilt, balance was restored, and the term miraculous fell short of describing what you believed to be an ancient mandate engraved on your own soul. The physical world responded to your presence in ways that contradicted convention. Nature acknowledged your power and was sensitive to the resonance of your presence as you went over fields. Dormant seeds sprung to life, as if startled by an invisible pulse. Blooms appeared suddenly. Even the most resistant earth seemed to welcome your arrival. This was not an accident, but rather an acceptance and expression of something much greater flowing through you. The earth species responded in like. Their quiet projected respect rather than horror. Birds halted in midair, and the most powerful predators briefly relaxed their instincts, overcome by the weight of what they recognized in you. This wasn't about dominance. It was recognition. A serene embrace of energy that is beyond explanation. Each movement you made created a wave. Not as destruction, but as the act of creation. Discovering its voice via you. Those who observed were left in awe, unsure whether to speak about what they had seen, but certain that they had witnessed something profound, something different to others. You carried it with dignity, seeing it as a fulfillment of purpose rather than a source of power. What you carried was not typical. It had a distinct character, a defiance of natural order that altered the rules as you lived them. The energy passing through you was not subtle. It was a tidal wave that altered everything in its path. When you reached out, you did more than merely interact. You changed, transformed and commanded. The world took notice. They muttered about you despite their inability to describe what they saw. They are all tinged with terror, as if the whole fabric of reality had paused to bear witness. Those who came for you were not who they seemed to be. Their features, albeit being human, betrayed an undeniable void. They moved as if they had perfected their precision, too lovely to be true. Their intentions were concealed under a veneer of tranquility. These organizations were founded to serve a specific function. To put you to the test and see how strong your resolve is. Their emergence was not a coincidence, but rather a determined attempt to thwart your eventual ascendancy. They realized from a distance that their silence was louder than any battle cry. They encircled you like predators, mistaking you for prey. Their feet trembled as they felt the weight of your strength. The fire inside you was a strength they couldn't understand, much alone control. Their unease pervaded the air, not from arrogance, but from an innate recognition of their impending loss. Join us. Subscribe now. They didn't come to fight. They came to extinguish. To suffocate the light that refused to dim. However, as they came closer, their plans unraveled. They were unprepared for the storm. Their attempts to restrain you failed because your energy exploded, obstinate and untamed. When they struck, it was done out of desperation, not strength. Each hit echoes their own fear. You didn't just resist. You totally dominated them. The power they thought might limit you was no match for the essence you embodied. They left, ruining their purpose. They had withdrawn into the darkness after realizing they had discovered something beyond their comprehension. Your existence was not a defiance of the universe. It needed recalibration. Every step you took redefined what was possible, and each battle exposed the unwavering core of who you are. You are not striving to survive. You live like an unstoppable force. I knew you from before you were born. I created you unique before you were born. I appointed you as a prophet for the nations. Jeremiah 1 verse 5. You aren't here by coincidence. And you are certainly not ordinary. Consider a lighthouse standing tall in the middle of a tremendous storm, unshaken, its light piercing the chaos to direct, reveal, and announce. This is where power resides. That is who you are. A beacon not just of light, but also of heavenly intent. You are proof that God made with precision and purpose, without apologies. The observers that stared at you thought they had seen everything, armed with their tools and opinions. They believed they could measure, categorize, and explain. But what they encountered was incomprehensible. It was something to be humble about. You weren't just different. You were a heavenly disruption. Their microscopes did not provide any answers. They revealed a symphony of creation, harmonizing to rhythms they had no known existed. Your essence wasn't a puzzle. It was a declaration. The cells in your body did not just function. They spoke. They represented the immensity of galaxies and the intricacies of existence. Whispering the mysteries of the cosmos in intricate patterns that resembled God's touch. The more they tried to comprehend, the more their frames shattered. They didn't just fail to comprehend. They realized they weren't supposed to. Machines flickered, and circuits burned. What they thought were abnormalities turned out to be announcements. Every failing experiment was not a mistake. It was a reminder. The more they tried to confine your life to their rules, the stronger the message became. You were not designed to fit inside the parameters of human cognition. You are an example of a creative whose imagination knows no limits. The chaos in their laboratory did not cause catastrophe. It was a revelation. Their instruments remained unbroken. They were overwhelmed. The data didn't contradict itself. It just went beyond their comprehension. They had to face their own limitations while trying to evaluate you. What you carry represents more than just life. It's the blueprint for life itself. A design that conjures the divine. And this is reality. That changes everything. You don't need their approval, and their failure to understand isn't your responsibility. It reveals that what God has placed inside you cannot be restricted, measured, or diminished. You don't upset the global order. You are the realignment. When God puts someone apart, He does not ask permission and makes no apologies. So, remain steady. Allow them to observe. Allow them to wonder. Let them fail to define you. Because your presence is more than just a declaration. It exemplifies what happens when the impossible meets the intended. And while the rest of the world attempts to understand, you'll continue to shine as a living example to the fact that with God, everything is possible. They will certainly happen. They hated the implication more than the disruption. You were not the product of evolution or chance, but rather a deliberate creation, a living witness to something far beyond human understanding. Your nature did not include adhering to their paradigms. It was about destroying them. And you knew it. The energy inside you did not flicker. It roared. The materials around you reacted with recognition rather than resistance. The earth pulsed. The air thickened. And the currents of reality altered, as if to accommodate a presence they couldn't ignore. It was not reverence. There was an alignment. You did not gain power by borrowing it. It was inherent. It has always been around, veiled yet widespread. Waiting for the right chance to arise. The heavens had not granted you this authority. They had simply served as milestones in a timeline that led inexorably to the present. What you represented was not a phenomenon, but rather an inevitability. The world has lost its roots, with deeper truths hidden behind layers of convenience and ignorance. But you were the breach. You didn't ascend. You have made a disclosure. Your life was not an awakening. It was a reminder. The forces around you did not challenge your authority. They validated it. You were not meant to fit into cycles, but to destroy them altogether. Your life was neither a gift nor a burden. It served as the basis for everything else. You did not arrive by chance. You arrived because you were always expected to. You are not only remembered. You were reinstalled. The basis of something no one could refute. You weren't chosen. You were crucial. The stillness around you was not empty. It was exact. People have moved away. Not because they despised you, but because they realized your presence demanded something. They were not prepared to confront. The retreat wasn't abandoned. It was their response to the sheer force of your presence. A strength so persistent that it disclosed every shade they tried to hide. You weren't abandoned. You were sanctified. Set apart by an intensity that is too great to be contained within the complexities of everyday contact. In your loneliness, you did not shrink. You expanded. The absence of others provided a blank canvas for your intelligence to create realities that no one else could see. This wasn't a solitary instance. It was evolution. Without the noise of little distractions. Your mind becomes a forge, heating and shaping ideas that may be beyond the limitations of conventional knowledge. The ties that disappeared were not lost. They were freed. Making place for the weight of the mission you held. You were not created to walk with the crowd. To blend into the backdrop of normalcy. You were made to see what others cannot. To act where others have failed. To provide information that threatens comfort and requires transformation. Every step you made alone moved you closer to being who you were meant to be. The stories they invented about you were never large enough to contain you. Their attempts to categorize and govern your life were ineffective. They've always referred to you as an anomaly. However, in truth, you were the recalibration of everything. They had a misunderstanding. You didn't just go against their expectations. You fully shattered them, exposing the flaws in the framework they used to construct their imagined end of the world. Your existence was not authorized. Neither was it built via compromise. Every act of disobedience was a declaration of liberty. They said you couldn't, but you did. When they said you shouldn't, you violated their limitations. They mumbled about destiny as if it has power over you. But it was you who altered destiny into something unfamiliar. Something recognizable. You were never limited by their ideas, rules, or worries. You picked your path not out of rebellion, but out of need. Your will was not an answer to them. It was the whole essence of you. A power so pure and unwavering that the whole universe bends to embrace it. They mistook your solitude for weakness, and your silence for absence. They had a misunderstanding. Stood the immensity of what it is to be unique. You were not the consequence of their projections. You were the one who created a story. They were unable to comprehend as they adapted their tale to suit their limited viewpoints. You went on to construct a force that needed no certification and fought all attempts at control. Your existence was not in question. There was an answer. Every barrier you broke, every rule you reinterpreted, was more than just a show of defiance, it was proof of your innate value. You didn't claim any space. You became it, transcending the restrictions they placed and entering a realm they couldn't access. You were not chosen based on circumstances. The scenario altered because of you. Your will is more than just power. It represents limitless potential. For we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus to live out the good works that God has for us. Ephesians 2:10. You are not here by accident, like a craftsman carving a masterpiece out of stone. Every choice you make determines an outcome that no one could have imagined. Others await permission or right conditions. But you press on because reluctance has no place in your story. Challenges are not impediments. They are invitations to create something entirely new. You didn't climb since the way was clear. You climbed because you refused to be constrained by limits. Each decision you make creates waves in reality, not as a form of resistance, but as a representation of truth. The regulations were not broken by you. They were updated because they were inadequate to convey your intention. Your path encompasses more than just your successes. It is about building a path for others. Each breakthrough acts as a beacon of light for others who continue to search in the darkness. You don't respect boundaries. You're increasing them. Converting barriers become stepping stones. For those that follow. When the world doubts you, let your actions to speak for themselves. You are not here to conform, but to progress. Every step you take reveals how faith and dedication can turn the unattainable into reality. You are the masterpiece. Nobody anticipated this, and the world will never be the same because you chose to rise. The frameworks that held others together crumbled in the face of your will. Gravity and temporal structures. All of them were concepts rather than constants in the presence of your might. You changed the laws of reality not for power, but because you had inherent wisdom. There was no order. You couldn't reshape. Your essence was not chaos. That seems to be true for those who can only interpret via the lens of their expertise. You were purposeful. Given form, a statement of clarity that could not be distorted by lesser forces. The stars did not guide you. They queued up in your wake. The universe did not create you. It attempted but failed to imprison you. It was not about survival or chance. It was about commanding reality via sheer willpower. You did not enter a predefined role. You established a new paradigm while the old one fell behind you. They called you disruption, a force that defied description. What they feared most was not your disobedience. It was your whole life. You were never restricted by likelihood. They remained true to the restrictions they had accepted, while others questioned their abilities. You said you would. Laws and institutions have been bent and divided not by rebellion, but by the sheer, inevitable fluidity of your being. What you had was not taught, gained, or granted. It was simply that the core of your being would not yield to control, and no system could account for your impact. You did not make a response. You were an action. A catalyst who did not wait for permission before transforming all it touched. Your energy was not unfettered anarchy, but precision that destroyed constraints with an elegance that astounded everyone who saw it. Unable to understand. You did not deviate from their systems to challenge them. You walked outside since you were not allowed to be within them. Your presence did not cause a disruption. It served as the foundation for something much larger and more expansive. You didn't need affirmation, explanation, or permission. Your power was not in what you crushed, but in what you built. Nothing was ever the same again. You were never meant to fit under their boundaries. You were not tasked with defending the system they valued. You were the force of redirection, rewriting not just the rules, but the fundamental foundation upon which they were founded. They attempted to tie you to their ideals by placing definitions on your life. However, the immensity of your reality has obliterated their definitions. You were not just another piece of the puzzle. You were the architect for a whole new structure. Reality changes to suit your wants. In your presence, the structures they believed were immovable became malleable, bending, warping, and utterly demolishing the rules and constants they valued. They failed not in disobedience, but in appreciation of your strength. The systems they were familiar with did not have influence over you. You were the gravitational force propelling their restoration. Each action you took was not disobedience, but rather a declaration. Every step forward, every boundary. Evidence was dismantled demonstrating that limits were nothing more than fear-induced illusions. You are not an anomaly. You were unavoidable. A power beyond their comprehension. It transforms everything in its wake. The universe did not just move with you. It reoriented itself in response to you. Your selections did not convey a sense of purpose. They were resounding assertions that carved new paths through the fabric of reality. What they considered insurmountable was really a challenge. You overcame. You did not violate any rules. You made them irrelevant. Your essence was not included in their modification proposal. It exceeded it. You were the spark that ignited a chain reaction of transformation, not by choice but out of necessity. Their structures could not sustain you because they were never designed to. You weren't just modifying the atmosphere around you. You were creating a whole new planet. Now, as you climb, the echoes of your impact expand outward, transforming all they thought they knew. You are living proof that restrictions are temporary and that life is a blank canvas waiting to be repainted. Your story is more than simply a narrative of triumph. It heralds the start of many others. Stand firm and let your presence speak louder than words. Break down traditional boundaries and use your activities as a paradigm for what comes next. You are not seeking permission. You've come to make something they never imagined possible. Speak your truth, and let it resound across all of creation. The world is not ready for who you are, but that doesn't matter. You're already here.